Hi, and welcome to another episode of Hot Takes with me, the Silver Fox. We have another example of the law of unintended consequences. The SNP have always boasted that, look at the way we haven't had any strikes in the NHS. And that, of course, is because they folded straight away when the doctors and nurses wanted pay rises. Oh, yes, just have what you want. We're not even going to negotiate because we've got to be able to show that we don't get strikes. And that's all very fine and pleasant until it comes to staffing numbers. The money you could have saved by a little bit of negotiation could have meant you had a little bit of spare money left over to hire a few more nurses, a couple of doctors, things like that. But instead you're spending the money on wages. There's no more money. You can't grow your workforce. And so the existing workloads on each individual worker increases. They may be getting more money, but the stress is going to eat away at them and ultimately cause them to become ill. You're even worse off. You're paying far more money and getting a worse service. The law of unintended consequences, because the people running the country, the SNP, are all really rather stupid and they don't see this. So take a look at this and see how bad it is and how much worse it could get. Here goes. So SNP's NHS pay deal boasts means workforce is growing much more slowly than in England's now amid the winter pressures. And of course it's going to get worse. Winter starts next week. The real winter, that's where you're starting to going to get very much colder. The real cold winter weather will start hitting. Strangely enough, we're going to be quite mild up until Christmas. Beyond that, it starts getting cold again. But once you get into that period, then you're going to have the elderly falling over. The trouble with them is they break a hip or a leg or something. They're in hospital a lot longer than someone young because of the complications and the healing rate. So you're going to get the elderly bed blocking. Not through their own fault. I'm not blaming them. I'm not passing blame. I'm just saying that's how it is. You're going to have more car accidents. There's going to be all sorts of problems, as well as the illness that goes around. So you're going to have this massive push onto the NHS at the same time as where you actually need more people in there to try and cover for the workload that will increase, you can't afford to hire anymore because you've just bowed instantly to the pay demands rather than try and negotiate down and even save a few percent. If you could have just saved a few percent, that could have then translated into 100 nurses? Now, I know there's only 100 hospitals in Scotland, but an extra nurse a shift make a tiny difference, but it's a difference nonetheless. But no, you can't do that because you just don't want to be seen to having a strike, because apparently having a strike is a sign of failure. It's not. It's a sign of strength, because you, as the government, yes, sure, you need to pay the public workers, of course, and you need to pay them a decent rate, but you mustn't raise it too much at the cost of those who are paying the bill. The trouble now is, yes, the ones that are working have got a nice little wage. Thank you very much. But ultimately, are you doing them any good? Because their stress levels will be incredible. You're going to harm them. Ali Baba, as Health Secretary and First Minister, has boasted that the NHS in Scotland has not been disrupted with strikes, unlike England. But this has come at a great cost to the taxpayer, but also the hard-pressed workforce. What did I just say? The SNP boasts that there's not been strikes within Scotland's NHS, and this has been scrutinised after it was revealed that the workforce is growing much slower than in England and has almost stagnated in recent years. And indeed, it's very hard to even get people to go and work in the Scotland's NHS, and the retention of staff is also very difficult, especially midwifery. There is an awful shortage there. This damning assessment comes at a time when winter pressure is growing on the hospitals across the country, across the whole of Britain, to be honest. But when you're sitting in, particularly in Scotland, where you've got a hiring issue, nobody really wants to work there. The ones that are there want to leave. You can pay them more money, and that will retain some a little bit longer. But the stress levels alone means even if they're not physically leaving the work, they're off with stress, they're off with injury, they're off with all sorts of different things. And so ultimately the workforce then falls even more because these people are off and you can't afford to bring in locums and you can't afford to bring in temporary staff because they're not trained. You're desperate to keep the ones that want to retire from retiring. What a way to run a show. Literally falling apart. GPs have complained about being overworked and there are a lack of beds, meaning ambulances are sitting outside hospitals for 15 hours. We did the story yesterday. A woman lying in a hospital, lying in an ambulance, on a stretcher in an ambulance for 15 hours waiting for a bed. But hey, don't worry, we've got 35 million ready to go out to those foreign embassies. So, you know, you may be dying in ambulances, but think of the good you're doing with your death, basically. Health Secretary, the fondler, Michael Matheson, is under growing strain to sort issues out. No, he's under growing strain to do the decent thing and FRO and let someone else come in who's not constantly besotted with the contents of his iPad. Analysis from the Fraser of Allender Institute revealed that the NHS employment in Scotland has grown more slowly than UK-wide, reflecting in part the higher pay awards. The money's not there to hire more people. They add, there have been fewer strikes, true, but within an existing budget, it means employing fewer people, and it interacts with long-term health spending pressures. And the graph shows that the workforce has actually stagnated since 2021, only growing by a couple of thousand. Meanwhile, south of the border, the NHS boosted theirs by 10,000 in the same period. Relatively speaking, it's not so bad, but even so, it's still way below targets, especially as Scotland's targets were already low. This is the thing. It looks as though, oh yes, well, you know, you've only got 2,000 extra in Scotland, 10,000 extra in England, which is, England's grown 5 times bigger, but it has 10 times the population. Yes, that's true. And so it looks as though Scotland's done big, and this is how they'll spin it, of course, that it's done relatively per capita greater. However, Scotland's coming from a much lower base. Their base level is still lower per capita in terms of total numbers in the NHS than England's. Now that is a reflection of nearly 17 years of SNP investment. So while the growth recently has increased somewhat, it's still not anywhere near where it needs to be. And this is because you're just going, yeah, just have your pay rise. We'll give you the pay, but we're just not going to hire anyone. Are you stressed yet? You know, we need you to do 8 days a week, basically. Alibaba used to boast about how there were no strikes disrupting the health service in Scotland when questioned about problems in the sector when he was in charge of the portfolio, pointing to junior doctors' industrial action in England. But this has been left in tatters by this new analysis. Well, did we think it'd be anything else? Did we think Alibaba would ever get anything right? He hasn't yet. He sits there and goes, oh, look at us, you know, look, we've never had a strike. But yeah, but you're way bending over backwards to fulfill them. So simply you can say this because you know it isn't your money. But the trouble is, people are dying because they can't get in and be seen. Waiting lists are growing because there aren't enough staff. It isn't the amount of money you're paying staff that's the problem with the NHS. It's the number of staff. If you doubled the staff, you'd still have a backlog because it's so bad now and growing daily by thousands. Currently 1 in 7 Scots is waiting, languishing, dying on a waiting list. And these fools are pissing money away on foreign embassies. The Chartered Society of Physiotherapy warned SNP ministers that their winter resilience plan, which included a £50 million funding boost for the Scottish Ambulance Service recruitment and up to £12 million of funding to expand hospital at home services, would prove fruitless without an increase in staff. No point putting that bit of money in there if you're not hiring people, and they don't want to hire people. They don't want to be seen to be doing good. They don't want people to be well and healthy and happy. Happy people don't vote for the SNP. Scottish Tory MSP Murdo Fraser said, fascinating, isn't it? The health service workforce is growing much faster elsewhere in the UK than it is in Scotland, according to research by Fraser of Allender. And the Scottish Government has accepted big public pay deals with the NHS employees, teachers and council workers in recent years, causing a significant budget issue. Finance Secretary Shona Robertson is facing a $1.5 billion, for that read 2 or possibly 2.5, budget black hole, which she will deal with on Tuesday. She won't deal with it. She hasn't got the intellectual capability to deal with it. She'll look at it, put her hands up and run to the hills. She hasn't got a clue. She'll put taxes up, which will mean the tax count comes right down. They'll be sitting there in a year's time going, oh, I don't understand it. We put the taxes up and earn even less. And that's because she's a moron. This is what happens. 86 IQ, hasn't got a clue. Really hasn't. And she's going to deal with this problem. She couldn't deal with her own shoelaces. Anyway, she says, Fraser Olander said that how the whole came about. He said there was a £1.5 billion gap for 24-25 in the MTFS, which is monetary supply, 1 billion on resource and £500 million on capital. But better income tax forecasts and the Barnett consequentials reduced it, although higher than budgeted for pay awards added to spending pressure. Before additional commitments, the gap stood at 7 billion. They've added 0.8 of a billion, nigh on £1 billion, simply because they bent over backwards to stop strikes in the NHS. Well done. And now you're going to watch as the NHS literally falls apart because you haven't got anywhere near enough people. Fully funding the freezing council tax will most likely cost over 300 million. It's going to cost nearer $1 billion because they're only allowing the 300 million for a 5% rise. Inflation was at 10% and the councils wanted between 8 and 10%. So you can guarantee it's going to be at least double that and probably more. They've got another 100 million committed to cutting NHS waiting lists. That's on top of all the other spending that they've said, the 25 million, the 50 million, the 10 million and the 12 million and whatever, all the different areas of the NHS, plus this 100 million. It's all coming out. It's roughly 300 million committed to the NHS. Not enough. Plus 325 million of spending was moved into 24-25 in order to balance the budget in 23-24. So leaving the funding gap for next year at £1.5 billion and getting worse. And, possibly, as I say, another £500 million on top of that. £2 billion. And she says she's going to sort it out. No chance. Anyway, if the funding commitments made by Alibaba in this first SNP conference in Leader, which has blown up the spending gap from 700 million to 1.5, so he promised this fully funded council tax freeze and extra cash for the NHS because the guy's an idiot. He stood there, had a boring speech and went bing and had this bright idea and has completely destroyed the NHS. It is dying and it will. And unfortunately, not only is the NHS dying, but so are hundreds of thousands of people waiting. I'll stop, I'll come up. And do we think things will get better? Do we think next Tuesday, when old 86 gets up there all flustered and telling people what an awful mess they've made of the economy, how the finances are shot, how she's got to cut services in every single aspect of life, really, with the exception of the Department for Independence. Obviously, that's going to get a massive boost because that's all they care about. Children can go to schools that are falling down and get zero education and come out like complete morons. Exactly the sort of people they need in order to vote SNP. People will die on hospital lists. People will die in ambulances waiting to even get into a hospital. But they're not important people, so it doesn't really matter. Elderly will die, but then, that's costing them money, so might as well get rid of those that you have to pay pensions for. Pain increases, misery increases. They're cutting the legal bills. They've cut the police. Scotland becomes a wild west, a lawless society. Society collapse around them. But they've salted billions away into those overseas bank accounts, and they're getting ready to take that last flight out. Just like the Fourth Reich, or the Third Reich. They are the Fourth Reich, aren't they? But just like the Third Reich did in 1945, where they all skipped off to South America. You have to wonder where this lot will be going. Somewhere without an extradition treaty, I suspect. They'll lie there drinking their Mai Tais and sitting on the beach earning 10% and thinking, those poor schmucks in Scotland who for 17 years believed our lies as we destroyed everything. And that's exactly how it is. And yet people still vote for them. It's amazing, isn't it? There's no limit to human stupidity. Thanks very much for watching. Stay safe, stay well, and I will speak to you later. Bye.